Michelle, it's my pleasure to pass on to you next to give the first introduction to the two parts that we're going to hear in our feedback session today of the Anti-Racism Project.
Thank you, Joe, and good afternoon, everyone. So I'm going to introduce the Student Voice Anti-Racism Project. It was a media project, and just remind you to sort of put all the pieces together. So why we did this project, how and what we did and how we did it and what next. So in terms of the why, I think it does need a reminder that, a year ago, we were all very much focused, many of us, on the death of George Floyd. And although all of the schools here present today were responding in their own individual ways, it was clear that we needed a way to respond as a partnership. So that's part of the why. We also really wanted to connect our students. We knew that the way we responded needed to involve student voice, because it was very apparent that young people's voice was very evident in the Black Lives Matter protest, and we needed to galvanise that and channel that energy in a really positive and constructive way as we were coming out of lockdown, going back into schools. And thirdly, in terms of why, it was such a good opportunity to kind of capitalise on the diversity that exists across our partnership, and rich diversity, and sort of break down some of those barriers and moving towards a really clear common goal. So I was really delighted that we chose anti-racism, we looked at equality and diversity, and that the focus was student voice. Delighted. It was a fantastic decision that we all made. So how did we do it? So we decided that, and moving forward, perhaps the students will decide, but we decided that the focus would be anti-racism, and we wanted them to make a film. A film because we wanted we wanted to capture the moment and have that as a kind of legacy, something we could archive in terms of moment in history, but in terms of SSLP. So we began with an inset, which I believe we did in November. We planned for face-to-face, it was virtual. And in the inset, we introduced the staff and students to some key themes around race, racism, unconscious bias, and just some of the language that was being used around race and racism and anti-racism. And we also introduced staff and students to the idea of making a film. So it was a media element that ran throughout the inset. So the inset was really powerful. It was attended by over 100 delegates, and I don't think I've attended an inset day that included student and staff delegates who broke off separately and then came back together to share on anti-racism and also this media project. So it was really powerful. So we got the conversation going. We then, that was in November, went into lockdown again, but it didn't stop the project. And thank you so much to everyone involved, especially Katie, because she just did not give up. So we got the students into clusters and made sure in every cluster there was an independent school. We thought that was quite important. And those students met weekly during lockdown, which was, I think, must have been really good for their mental health. And they started to plan their films. Bearing in mind now we're in sort of December, January, February, the students still have not met, but they are now co-directing and writing films in clusters, and within each cluster is 3 or 4 schools of students that have never met. So that was an incredible way of connecting students and using Zoom, and if it wasn't for lockdown, most of us wouldn't even know about Zoom. So that was good, it was fantastic. As Joe has said, we were delighted that just before half term, we were able to have a film screening of the films, and that was face-to-face at Theatre Peckham. And we will see some of those films. So that's kind of why we did this project, what we did and how we did it. So I just want to say the what next, because as Joe said, this isn't the end. So the students have created or are creating PSHE resources. So please make sure that those films are shared with your PSHE coordinator and the lesson plans are used. That's really crucial. Secondly, I think they're great resources for year 8 PSHE, but for assemblies for any year group, all year groups. And finally, as we're doing at St Saviour's, we're having a anti-racism inset day on the 22nd of June, and all of the films will feature, most of the films, over the art as part of ensuring that we've got student voice running throughout our CPD. So you can use those videos for CPD as well. So, and the final thing I want to say is I hope that we can use this model of students and staff working together, of student voice at the heart, moving forward, whatever the topic or the theme is. So that's a sort of summary of what we did, why we did it and how we did it. And hopefully we will continue the good work that we started in partnership. Thank you.
Oh, Michelle, thank you. Katie, I guess we're ready to show our first film. It's been pre-recorded, of course, and it's Kumba and Jolanda from St Saviour and St Olave's. It's their film, It's Not Funny. And then at the end of our meeting, there'll be a second film, Amjad from DC, you'll see introducing the film Make Racism History. So shall we see It's Not Funny?
Hi, my name is Jolanda, and I chose to be a part of this project because I feel like racism within institutions is not spoken about globally.
Hi, my name is Kumba, and I chose to be a part of this project because racism is a passion of mine which needs to be tackled. Today, I am here to present to you our project as we have put together over the course of 4 weeks. During this time, we worked hard to speak on issues that many people of colour go through as a result of institutionalised racism, specifically focusing on microaggressions within schools.
As a whole, we had decided to make this film to highlight some jokes that school kids may make which they don't know is a form of racism and discrimination. We had the idea to use body paints and other graphics to show that jokes could leave a lasting mark on our emotions even if no physical attack has taken place.
We had many meetings where we sat as a whole through Zoom as we discussed the different things we could do together. This included us talking about our views on racism and how it has personally affected us, even challenging our perspectives.
Questions such as, can people in authority be racist? Can our friends be racist? Are only white people racist? And does history make us racist? We created a lesson plan which follows the same pattern.
The classes asked one of these questions, then watched the video before conducting a short exercise. This would challenge the minds of young kids who have maybe done these things or have been a victim to racism.
We hope you enjoyed this presentation and learned something new.
And appreciate the work we have done as a whole.
Frank?
Yeah.
Rosalia Martin?
Hello.
Mia Worthwell?
Here.
Hello. Azra Og...
It's Obiabeba.
Alright, well, we'll have to find a shortened version of that because I can't say that every lesson. Georgia,
Yeah, I'm actually Muslim. You're thinking of my sister. You taught her last year. It's actually called a hijab.
It's actually for
That's Rachel, she's the one with braids.
Oh, you can't blame me for mixing you two up, girls. You look awfully alike. Are you related anyway? I mean, I've taught cousins before.
No, we're not related actually. I just met her today.
Yeah, and I don't think we look very alike.
I mean, it's going to be quite a feat to tell you two apart, right? Maybe next lesson we'll have you two sat the opposite ends?
Hey, you Peng. Shio from Asia, yeah? Could you teach me karate?
Hey, Camilla. I see you're from Colombia, right? So, do you know any drug lords?
Hey Mohammed, have you had any clean water today?
Hey Daniela, I see where you're from. Is this weather too cold for you?
Hey Nadia, why wearing a hood? Is it raining?
Hey Charlie, I see where you're from. Ireland, right? So, where are your potatoes?
So, how was your day? It takes a community with accountability to sustain the fight against racism.
Both casual and overt, as well as training ourselves to be more reflective.
Reflective on our prejudices and biases.
We aim to bring hope to people of all backgrounds
And have the right educational discussions that will encourage progress and cohesion.
No matter your cultural heritage or background.
Wait, why are you passing to this little life you've got?
What's the problem?
What's your problem? What have I done wrong?
You don't get to talk to people like that. You have to treat people fairly. If she wants to play, she can play. This is a playground for all of us.
Football's not about fair. Why are you
Unfair.
taking the ball?
No, I'm taking it. Bye.
Give me back the ball.
Hold on. Who do you think you are?
I am.
Did I ask you to speak? Shush! Idiot.
Johnson, can you come here now, please?
What do you want?
I need to speak to you about earlier. What you said to Beloda was very disrespectful and she didn't like it. Okay?
She's just a little light-skinned girl. She can't play football.
It doesn't matter if she's light skinned, she's still black.
She's not black. She's light-skinned.
She is black. Light skin and black is the same thing. You guys come from the same place. Both of our parents are black. Both of your parents are black. You shouldn't treat her any differently from how you want to be treated. And just because she's a girl doesn't mean you should push her away. I think you need to acknowledge what you did was wrong.
Yeah, it might have been wrong. Your approach was much calmer. The other girl was just too... I'm really sorry. Where's she?
Silence has been embedded in our bones for decades. Our bones wear with the dirt we traverse and the cotton we plucked, and the price tags we bore and the trauma we sucked, and the physical blockade of segregated poison. You call it the land of the free, the land to become, the land to be, like America and Britain and the in-betweens. But even you don't realize how contradictory that is. Where many with darkened skin are powerless and unable to speak out about the prejudice radiating from the land of the free. Where many with different complexions are silenced and unable to fight for change in your said land of the free. Then, 100 years later, another sister will dry her tears wondering where in history she lost her voice.
Another brother will wonder if he'll ever hear the sounds of his rejoice. Another child will wonder if they'll ever have a choice between life and death. Even though we all bleed red, all they see is red, murder and murder. The eons after the first blood was shed, originally from our ancestors. Nothing's changed.
Four really powerful films. Great to see those. Thanks to all the children involved with them, and so pleased we had a chance to see them. If our anti-racism project has been one way that we've got pupil voice working, the other way is through thinking about. So Sue, I'm delighted you're with us to say a quick word about the Thinking About series of talks, both what's happened this year and what we're looking to project ahead to offer in the future.
Thank you, Joe. I'm not going to go through every slide in masses of detail here, but just to give you a bit of a recap of where we started out and where we are and where we hope to take this very successful series. These were just some of our aims right back at the early stages.
We may have lost Sue.
We could go to Joel's comments and then back to Sue if possible. Otherwise, we could probably synopsize very quickly. Katie, I'd let you do that.
I wanted to be involved because I had heard of the SSLP Thinking About sessions before, and I wanted to hone my interviewing skills, so I decided to apply to do it when my teacher told me about it. I interviewed David Lammy, the current Shadow Lord Chancellor, and I also interviewed Ronan, an apprentice reporter at Bloomberg. During the interview, I felt proud to do it, not only because I was chosen, but because I was interviewing such high-profile people, like an apprentice at Bloomberg, one of the biggest companies, and also one of the Shadow Lord Chancellors and a member of Parliament. And afterwards, I felt that I had taken all the information needed from those interviews to pursue my journalism aspirations. I used the skills I got from the interview to interview my head teacher in my school, and I think it really helped because I ended up getting praise by not only my teachers, but from my fellow students. My favorite part about being a co-host was probably the interviewee's response, because it was always very detailed and informative, and it always left me thinking after the interview was finished.
You can tell what we did, Sue. We went ahead with Joel first. What I'm going to suggest, given time, Sue, is that rather than going back to the screen share, you actually just give a 2-minute summary of Thinking About, and then Katie might want to add some bits there, notably the data crunching bits.
No problem, that's probably preferable. Yeah, so really our aims was to look at wide-ranging talks from diverse speakers in terms of age, gender, background, the jobs they work within, to both inspire and to be aspirational, and also to about learning about new things and things that they can think about. And I think given the range of talks we've had this year, we've been able to begin to look at what the data is telling us from the students, what they prefer, what's working for them, and what they want to be hearing about and finding out about, which has been extremely useful. And slowly and steadily, more and more students becoming involved in the hosting and the Q&As. I mean, they're getting amazingly confident doing this. And I hope we're near a stage where they can completely host from beginning to end, and even possibly start jointly inviting speakers themselves. Working backwards, I mean, many of you have watched some of the fantastic talks that we've had, so I won't recap on those, but just really where we are this term, the focus very much being on careers, looking at those, in particular year 10 and 12 students who are thinking about GCSEs and university and beyond, and very much trying to find speakers who are of a younger generation. Selvin last week, only 4 or 5 years older than the audience he was talking to. And Fahim, though a bit older tomorrow, not that far in the distant future from many of our young people that are thinking about careers in medicine. but most importantly, his career, not just a career in medicine, how many other things he's done, and to talk about his passion for Selfless, which is the organisation he's started. I think that for next year, we need to be conscious of the ebbs and flows of thinking about, which has been impacted on positively and negatively by lockdowns. When we're in lockdown, thinking about thrives. When the weather's not great, it also thrives. So we are mindful of those things and how we space and organise the talks in the different academic calendars, the times that they start, where they fall in terms of particularly half-term breaks and Christmases. But just to circle back to the beginning, it's about being responsive to pupil interest, need, things that they don't know that they're interested in yet. So that falls on our responsibility to think beyond where they are at this moment in time and introduce them to possibilities and open up their imagination to new things. We'd like to think, and this has always been central, that a pupil won't just go to a maths talk because maths is what they're interested in and they're going to have a career in maths, that they might go to that talk, but they almost might think, I'll pop into that one about dystopian fiction, or I'll go to that one on perhaps architecture or medicine or engineering, because we know that the best learners are those ones that are 360-degree educationalists and learners in a 360-degree way. So I'll finish there. I hope I've covered some, if not all, but Joel actually speaks better than I can on this.
No, Sue, thank you. What I'm going to do is suggest that Katie maybe just adds a bit to the metrics of that, what is sort of engagement we have, and then I'll let Katie introduce Peter, and then Catherine, who's going to give our concluding our summary at the end, maybe could pick up and introduce our middle leader training and anti-racism part 2. So Katie, any more you'd want to say of the metrics of thinking about how well that's gone in terms of buy-in? And then I'll let you introduce Peter.
Thank you, Joe. Sorry, there's a lot of trying to line up films and going on behind the scenes here, so apologies, everyone. Thinking about, well, we've had 17, around about 22 more webinars, 22 webinars this academic year in total. It's really sort of started increasing with the viewers as well. So in the autumn term, we had about 450 unique viewers. That increased to 585 unique viewers in the spring term. So Sue was saying, the lockdowns, we really saw the numbers going in. What's interesting, the highest numbers have always been students getting it. Obviously, we're targeting it at the students. At the beginning, we saw quite a lot of teachers tuning in as well, maybe with their classes, maybe registering out of interest. But we've seen that teachers number kind of being overtaken now by parents, which is really interesting to sort of have them sitting in with the students as well. Sometimes sort of getting in touch. It's an area that they wanted to understand more about, because when they know that their children are learning about a subject. So there's been some really sort of interesting things coming out of it, really a bit unexpected. But we've had 115 people give feedback, fill in the feedback form that comes up at the end of each webinar. 80% of those students have said that they watch alone on a personal device. And 80% again said that they learned something new from the webinar. And 62% had access to a speaker that they wouldn't have access to. So I think all of those things really make it feel worthwhile. We wouldn't, if it hadn't been for this, an international pandemic, we wouldn't be using Zoom. But what we're seeing is that we've been able to bring in a real range of speakers, and we haven't had to worry about the travel times. So what we're seeing is it's definitely opening up to a whole range of different students that wouldn't normally access things. So it's definitely something that we'll want to continue. There's been a lot of interest from other partnerships as well as to how we're doing and how we're managing to keep students interested. So I think everything just proves that we're doing the right thing. We're taking the right approach. We're thinking about it. Mark.
Lovely.
Thank you for another student collaboration.
Right, that's me, is it?
It is, Peter.
Okay, hi. Sorry, you broke up, but hi. I'm Peter Gritton, Director of Music at JAGS. Over the last year, we've created a music hub across SSLP with the aim of sharing teacher experiences, both academic and practical, as well as creating imaginative and, well, we hope imaginative and collaborative projects for the pupils. And last year, before the pandemic struck, we ran a very successful gospel choir night. And during lockdown last summer, we latched onto Beethoven's 250th anniversary. I think we called it hashtag Beethoven 250 for all, something snappy like that, with an online instrumental project. But in the autumn, we ran some useful lectures, finishing off with a collaborative vocal experience that we called Beethoven, not because he's got a nasty stutter, but because we thought it was a snappy kind of title, using the famous theme of the first movement of his Fifth Symphony, a theme that's generated from those 4 notes. Key Stage 3, Key Stage 4 and Key Stage 5 classes, school choirs and even teachers had an opportunity to contribute tracks to Beethoven, which were all combined to create a musical montage, rather like a musical meme. Some schools submitted 2 or 3 classes who not only sang but learnt something about Beethoven along the way. Each recording became a piece of the jigsaw puzzle, which has contributed to this overall result, which Katie is just about to play us. This was hundreds of children, lots of editing, and it was about 1/5 of SSLP schools, which contributed to the sounds and images that you're just about to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. That was amazing. That's a tough thing to follow. Yes, so I'm not going to take any more time then. Alice, this was an initiative that was led from JAGS and by JAGS, and Alice, you were instrumental in this. So please tell us about the middle leader training.
Thank you. I was really inspired to set this up because I was fortunate enough to take part as a sort of spectator in a cluster group in Northern England, which called the Leadership Development Programme LAMP, which stands for Leadership and Management Programme. And I just thought what a brilliant idea this was. This was, gosh, this time last year, I think. And so I thought we can definitely replicate this with our partnership. And I wanted to maximise the opportunity for the online collaboration amongst teachers. And I was really inspired by the previous sessions in the last 2 years that Patrick at Dulwich College had done, which were teaching and learning focused, but I wasn't sure if we'd ever done something on professional development for our Southwark teachers. So I thought it was a great opportunity to do that. And within the talks, it was really good because we had a range of expert speaker information, breakout rooms, polls and sort of quizzes, and typing, chatting. So we tried to make sure that each of the different sessions had a different sort of interactive elements to keep it fresh. We had 52 teachers from 14 SSLP schools registered to take part. And we were really pleased because 26 of them took part in all 4 sessions, which is quite a feat considering there's all the parents' evenings and illnesses and childcare and all those sorts of things after school. So I was really pleased with that. We have 4 sessions. The first one was led by Andy Buck, who's very well known. and he did being a strong leader and creating a good team. That was particularly well received, his. The second one, again, very well received, was by Nikki Bright on tackling difficult conversations. She included lots of really good practical techniques on those sorts of conversations that most of us here do without realising. And I think it's really important that those who might be leading a team for the first time or aspiring to lead a team are given something to sort of hold on to. So that was really good. Then we had Dr. Jill Berry, again, someone who's very well known on communication and sort of being a wider presence within a school as you get more established as being a middle leader. And then finally, Philip Lott, who's a specialist on employment law. Hopefully much of the information he was doing many people won't ever need, but really important part if you're going to be a head of department. So I'd say that for me, I think Nikki Bright's session was a particular highlight in terms of the sort of practical day-to-day conversations that middle leaders might have. I'd like to thank you, Katie, who set up all the tech and communicating with all the middle leaders and reminding everybody to come along. And we felt it worked really well. So I work quite closely with Patrick at the college, and we're really keen to do the same thing again next year, but for aspiring senior leaders, because there's actually not that much stuff out there for that group of people. So we'll be in touch in the autumn term to get a couple of delegates from each school who you feel could, who could be potentially excellent senior leaders, and we look forward to supporting them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And now I think we're going to hear from somebody who took part in that. So Maria, I'm going to hand straight over to you.
Oh, thank you. Hello. Yes, I did participate in this course in the fourth section. And I have to say that it's one of the best in my whole teaching career that I actually been involved with. I think they have these 4 sessions, which was a wide range of different topics that we could talk about it. And I think the fact that it was split in these 4 sections and give us the opportunity, I mean, we were doing it online, but it still give us the opportunity to engage, to communicate to, between different teachers from different schools and sharing the good practice. That was like a really, as I say, one of the best training I've been involved with. I think the guest speakers were fantastic. So well done to everyone. I cannot pick up one of the best, because every time we have one, I thought, oh God, this is one of the best. And then we have another one. The fact that we were giving as well, as you mentioned, the employment law, something that hopefully we don't have to use it, but it still give us, a different angle. That's something that we never thought about it. So yes, as I say, it really has inspiring. It really has helped us, especially for me, the skills, not only just to become a better leader, but also to reflect and to help others. So I will say just thank you very much. It's been an amazing opportunity.
Oh, that's absolutely brilliant to hear, Maria. Thank you. And it's great to hear that it's really had impact for our colleagues, but actually the models really worked as well. So moving forward, it's really good to think that we can take that further. And as you said, to think about our aspiring senior leaders. So it's a great opportunity into the future. Thank you. Now I think I'm going to move on to introducing another video, Katie. I hope you're ready with this one. It doesn't need much by way of introduction, because we're back to our theme of the work that students did on anti-racism this year. And we're going to hear from another one of our students, Amjad from Dulwich College. And then we're going to see the film that he was involved in creating. So over to you, Katie, make the magic happen.
With the film Make Racism History, we wanted to highlight the need for curriculum reform, whilst addressing the casual racism or racist banter that's so prominent in the younger years. We wanted to illustrate how viewing history through different perspectives can provide students with a more in-depth and holistic stance on historical context. This could encourage empathy amongst students and create a better understanding for each other's backgrounds. Hence, we decided to set the film in a history lesson, where all the characters got to voice their own opinions.
Right, good morning. Would anyone here like to tell me the name of the monarch who succeeded William I?
William II, sir, and after him came Henry I, and after him came Stephen I, and after him it was Henry II.
Nerd.
Who even cares? Just shush. I've been saying this. Always one version of history. What about everywhere else?
Actually, I think it's important to know this country's history, and even though you may not even be from here.
Look, there's clearly a range of different opinions here, but let's try to remain calm and not let anger get the better of us.
This history means nothing, man. Why don't we learn some world history like Mansa Musa or the Mongol Empire?
Who's that? Because I've never heard of him.
See, this is what I mean. He's the richest man ever, and instead of learning about him and how he built this crazy rich empire, we know that at the same time, Edward Longshank was fighting in Scotland over a few bits of
Marley?
land.
Yeah, that's sick. My dad's from there, you know.
Yeah, man, it's sick, because I learned way more interesting history than at this Saturday school my mom makes me go to. And it gives you this mad sense of pride, and it means you can actually back it up when idiots like Steve try and chat.
Mansa Musa sounds more like a terrorist than someone important to me.
Oi, shut up before I make you.
Over Zoom, good luck, mate. Stop getting so defensive. It was just a joke. It doesn't even matter.
What do you mean it doesn't matter? Are you dumb?
Just chill out, for God's sake.
Nah, because I've had enough of this still. It's all these jokes here, but it's like you don't see the consequences. And it's stuff like this that causes major problems. Like, for example, after every terrorist attack, it's all these jokes. But they always have this edge where, you know, if you say something about it, other people think you're just condoning it. Remember back to London Bridge, how Fatima was facing pure abuse at school, but it was all these jokes, right? Well, why do you think she ended up in hospital 2 weeks later? Because words hurt, yeah, but fists hurt a lot more. And it's guys like you that don't understand why people do racist and Islamophobic attacks.
Yeah, that's true. Like, for example, with stop and searches on black kids, why do you think police officers think like that? Of course you're going to be racist when you're learning history. It's all about England and the West. And the only knowledge you have of black people's history is that they were enslaved. And then, of course, you're going to be racist when people make racist jokes and mock minorities, teachers let it go.
Well, it certainly seems most of you do want to learn something different, and it's great to hear a range of discussions. But we cannot change the curriculum, and we need to stick to it.
But why, sir? Why do we have to learn about these white kings and queens? Why can't we learn about something that shaped the modern world? Like the Ottoman Empire. They ruled for over 300 years. They practiced advanced maths, physics, astronomy, chemistry. Some of the greatest advancements in medicine were thanks to them. They created the pincers, the lancets, catheters. And what about Mansa Musa and the Mongolians? Or Black history? You know, why is it so one-sided? We learn about the British Empire, but what about the people suffering because of it? We don't know any of this. Yet we can name the 6 wives of Henry VIII.
Yeah, white people didn't do everything, you know. We think about black people as slaves or Muslim as terrorists, when they're the ones that invented things that shaped the modern world.
We have to stick to the curriculum right now, but in the future we can definitely look into this.
Future? Most of us agree that we've never learned any proper, diverse world history. Why can't we start now?
Or actually, I didn't, so...
The only time we talk about black people or other minority groups' accomplishments is when it's Black History Month. Any other time, it's just slavery. You think, geez, they look at us as if we're still slaves.
Look, for example, has anyone heard of Daniel Hale Williams? He was an African-American who established the Providence Hospital and Training School Association in Chicago, insisting on the best sanitary conditions in 1893. He performed the first ever open heart surgery, the first time a chest cavity has ever been opened without a patient dying of an infection. Black people aren't idiots, you know.
Right, we have to continue.
Nah, sir, I've had enough of this. We always learn about how white people take credit for everything. But what about our history? Like, for example, do you even know where the coffee you drink comes from?
That's not important right now.
If it's not important, then don't drink it then. Just for your information, it was first brewed in Yemen by a Muslim man named Ahmed al-Ghaffar. In the 9th century, it was first brewed for the Sufi monks so that they could stay up for late nights of devotion. By the 13th century, it reached Turkey, but not until the 16th century did Europe actually discover it, when it was brought to Italy by a Venetian trader.
Exactly. We're stuck with this curriculum that teaches one side of the story, which creates nationalism. That's what creates racism.
If you keep going on, I'm going to have to mute so we can continue our
What
learning.
do you mean, our learning, sir? This is our learning. Just because something's different doesn't mean we're not learning. I mean, look at me. I muted straight away as soon as we were talking about Mali. And that goes for everyone else as well. When we were learning about Henry VIII, nobody was speaking. Nobody had their mics on.
Okay,
Nobody
that's
had
a
their
fair
cameras
point.
on.
Hopefully it's something we can address in the near future, because the current curriculum clearly isn't doing enough to engage you all.
Wow, thank you. And yet again, we can see just how thoughtful and how powerful the words of our students are. So that's something that we really do need to take forward. Thank you for making that work again, Katie. Katie, do you just want to give me a nod as to whether or not I'm going to go there with the survey? I am? Okay. So there's one more technical challenge for everyone this afternoon. I'm going to run through a few thank yous, but I'm going to ask Katie to share now. We want to run a poll as we are running through the thank yous. I had been asked to try and wrap this meeting up by 6 o'clock. That's not fair when it didn't come back to me till 6 o'clock, but I will do this as quickly as I possibly can. We have asked the students about what their priorities might be for next year. They will have the final say, but we would be really interested to hear your views too. So if you can complete this poll while we're here, we didn't want to give you a task for after the meeting. We kind of want your responses now if you can. And whilst you're doing that, I'll run through the thank yous. So first of all, a huge thank you to everybody that has joined us this afternoon. It's a ridiculously busy time of year. We're all, I'm guessing, still working on those tags. But thank you for making the time to come along. Thank you for everything you have done to keep SSLP ticking by this year. We could not believe that we could have been so successful this year at the start of it when we first realised quite what we were contending with. But we have learned loads that will help us to move forward differently into the future. So thank you, because that's down to your commitment and your school's commitments that we have been able to do that. It's really appreciated. The links are what makes all of this work, and I think she's had to leave, but I did want to mention Lucy, who has been a very loyal link teacher from Charter North for a while now. She is moving on this year, so this was her last meeting, and I'm really sorry we didn't get to say goodbye to her while she was still here. And one more thank you from me is to Katie. None of this could have happened this year without you, Katie. It's massively appreciated. You've been an absolute star. You can see the reaction. Thank you. Really, really appreciated. So where do we go next? So we've got the survey. We will be interested to see your views. Thinking about, we'll continue. We were hearing about that from Sue earlier. We're looking to see some kind of careers program for younger students coming on board. That would be really well received. We are gathering students' opinion, as I said earlier. So far, we have had a response from 2 schools. They've engaged really well in those 2 schools, but please do encourage your schools, students in your school, to respond to that survey so we do get their view and they get to shape what we are doing into the future. One of the things that's been a real focus for us this year is to actually take time to measure and properly look at the impact of what it is we do, because we can all sit here and congratulate ourselves, but actually if it's not had an impact on our staff or on our students, then we need to know about that. And as part of the DFE funding that we got, there was a real priority on assessing impact, and that's where Impact Ed comes in for us. So they will also be sending you a survey. It will actually come from Katie, but it will be completely independently assessed. So please do look out for that and please do respond. There has been a suggestion, as you heard earlier, that CPD should focus on aspiring senior leaders. That seemed to be quite popular, so we will run with that. But if you have one more thing I need to flag up for you, there is one more meeting this week for SSLP Links, and that is to plan our launch meeting. At that launch meeting, it would be really helpful if they had your ideas to work with. So if there is anything else that you are sitting there thinking, I wish we would do that, I wish we could look at that, please pop that in the chat now, and we will make sure that the links look at that on Thursday. And that's been a real rush through everything I wanted to say. Katie, do you think there's anything I missed out there? No, lovely. Okay, so it's 6:05. It's a really hot and sweltery day. Genuine, heartfelt thanks for what you have done this year. Now go home and enjoy the fresh air. Thank you. Take care. Thanks again, Katie.